give special remembrance to the people affected in the 911 disaster. Following up, Alex will tell you about the first news of today regarding the Chinese cultural entrepreneur Geng Xiaonan, who was detained, and a friend of hers suspected that it was because of she supporting dissidents.
Chinese cultural entrepreneur Geng Xiaonan was detained. A friend suspected that was because of supporting of dissidents. Geng Xiaonan and her husband, an entrepreneur who has been quite active in Beijing's cultural public sector in recent years, and her husband were detained by the Beijing police on Thursday, October 9th, on suspicion of illegal business, which once again triggered repression by the Chinese authority at home and abroad, accusations of free voice and the suppression of dissident. According to report, when Xu Zhangrun, a former professor of Tsinghua University, was taken away by the Sichuan police, Geng Xiaonan called for him. Many friends of Geng Xiaonan suspected that her has been taken away by the police was related to the early public speaking of the several public intellectual and dissidents, including Xu Zhangrun. So far, no official Chinese media has reported or introduced this matter.
Thank you for the report. Next up, our reporter Alice will bring you the report in which the Chinese and Indian foreign ministers issued a joint press release.
Xinhua News Agency in Moscow reported on September 10th that the Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi and Indian Foreign Minister Su Jiashan held a bilateral meeting in Moscow on September 10th. The two foreign ministers frankly and constructively discussed the development of China-India border situation and China-India relations. As a result, the Chinese and Indian foreign ministers issued a joint press release stating that the two countries, quote, forces should disengage as soon as possible, end of quote.
Thank you for the report. Next up, I will continue with today's following news, starting with the U.S. Embassy's WeChat official account bombards the CCP. In an article titled The Hypocritical Propaganda System of People's Republic of China, and according to state.gov, the Chinese Communist Party's main propaganda newspaper, People's Daily, refused to run the op-ed written by the U.S. ambassador in Beijing, Terry Branstad, citing a litany of grievances. Ironically, the op-ed called for more than positive relationships between the two countries and asked to build relationships through unrestricted engagement and uncensored discussion. The People's Daily response once again exposes the CCP's fear of free speech and serious intellectual debate, as well as Beijing's hypocrisy when it complains about the lack of fair and reciprocal treatment with other countries. Moving on to our next news. The Chinese military announced its participation in the Caucasus strategic exercise. The Ministry of National Defense says that the exercise is not aimed at any third party and has nothing to do with regional situation. Now, it is our turn to think what the CCP means actually. Given the fact that the CCP has a habit of lying, we should pay more attention to the meanings behind it. Moving on to our next news. It is that the Chinese media says that domestic vaccines are really effective and no one has gotten CCP virus after vaccinated. It says that CCP virus vaccine has been vaccinated with hundreds of thousands of people and no one has obviously observed adverse reactions, and the protection period can be up to 3 years. Saying an executive of Chinese state-owned vaccine company said that the hundreds of thousands of people in China have been vaccinated with one of the company's 2 experimental new coronavirus vaccines, and no one has been infected. Those streams are make lies they tell. Think of what Dr. Yan said about mutation of virus. How effective is the CCP virus vaccine? As a quick reminder, we will have a TNT Daily weekly episode 5 show about the CCP censorship on Beijing time, 10 a.m. Monday the 14th. And that's all for today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.